Hi, I'm Danny Gregory, and I want to take you through another sketchbook from my collection. These are books that, by and large, are not ones that I personally created, but that are from the books that I've picked up at bookstores and which I think that you'll be inspired by. And if you want to, you can also pick up a copy for yourself. So beyond this video, you can continue to get inspired by it. So this week, I'm going to talk about Japan. Japan is, of course, an endless source of inspiration for artists and creative people, and it has been since the time of Gauguin, probably long before that. But this year we're going to spend some time in Japan with Kate Williamson, who's written a beautiful book about the year that she spent in Japan. Kate Williamson was a graduate student at Harvard, and she took a year in Japan to basically to make this book. And it is a journal of her year there in beautiful drawings and watercolors. And there's so many interesting things that she does in this book which will inspire your sketchbook, I hope, the way that it's inspired mine. And let's take a look at some of the pages. So this book it's quite smallish. It's designed to be carried around with you. I'm lucky enough that Kate actually signed this book for me. But you'll see throughout this different kinds of forms of design. So here we see watercolors that Kate has done of Japanese patterns, textiles. She's very interested in textile beauty and washcloths. See how beautiful her handwriting is too, by the way? Just very elegant. There's a lot of pages that are like this, gigantic spreads that seem to go beyond the actual edges of the page and capture, in this case, some persimmons. Then there's pages like this where it's just a little object and an essay that she's written about it, in this case her cell phone. Another panoramic view, in this case of people walking up and down the street. A lunchbox. This is really beautiful and has many textures in it, but it's really a very simple watercolor and line drawing. I love the design of that page. She's really great at this kind of dramatic design. In this case, it is about a cup of tea. Another beautiful panoramic. Here we see a diagram. This is of a meal that she's had, but as you can see, she's numbered each of these elements, and when you turn the page, here is the key that tells you what she ate, and a little story about it. Another beautiful piece of design, in this case maple leaves floating by as they change color in autumn. Here we see a bento box that she took on a train with her, and all the different elements in it. Another piece of design, just this simple bullet train here at the bottom. And then a night sky with a little quote in white. Here she's taken these different sweets and she's done a cross section to show what they're made out of. These are different drawings of what people see in the moon. They see a rabbit. That's what Japanese people call the man in the moon. They call it the rabbit. And here we see different drawings. Just some bananas sealed in a plastic bag. When you're doing travel journaling, it's always interesting to find familiar things and to see the foreign country's interpretation of that familiar thing, and to see the differences that everyday life is, how it's transacted in faraway countries, and to learn so much more, I think, about not only the country that you're visiting, but also the country that you come from by doing this sort of contrast and also exploration of really the most mundane things. This drawing of an apple that's wrapped in a sort of protective piece of styrofoam, because the Japanese tend to buy these really expensive, beautiful pieces of fruit, and of course they're looked after and well protected. Here we see different kinds of paper that she's found, different textures of paper, rice paper, and the different ways that they're printed, and she's made this collage out of it. She does quite a lot of that kind of collage thing. We'll get to some more of that in a minute. Different, what's called ephemera. Again, another piece of beautiful design, very simple. This is an electric rug that she found. So it's basically like an electric blanket, but it's a rug to stand on in the bathroom, keep your feet warm. Landscape. Yeah, so this is an example. Oh, this is another piece of beautiful design. This is just a piece of rope that is tied together in a Shinto temple that she visited. But this is a really careful, beautiful piece of drawing. You can see that she's really studied exactly how every strand of this rope comes together, and the colors are so varied, but they're also within the simple range. And then this giant piece of white paper is really a great piece of design. Anyway, as I was saying, this is an example of the type of ephemera that she collects. And a lot of people who, when they keep sketchbooks, particularly when they travel, like to collect rubber stamps. I've often done that, going into just a local post office, and if you ask the clerk to stamp your sketchbook, you have a great little souvenir, a unique souvenir of the place and the date in which you've gone. And so that's what she's done. She's gone around and collected all these different stamps in her book. It doesn't have to just be drawing and painting and writing. Here, different kinds of ways in which English is used on Japanese products. Again, stamps, beautiful stamps that she's collected. Postage stamps. This is an observation about how Japanese elderly ladies like to have rhinestones on their clothing. There we see a temple garden. Look at how simple and restrained the way that she's done this drawing is, and then these beautiful watercolors of the rocks floating in the like islands in the stream. So there's another massive panorama. She draws herself these little kind of cartoony caricatures of herself doing stuff, because a lot of this book is also about her observations about herself, what she's learning, how she's feeling. Another almost Japanese looking piece of design. Is it Japanese, or is it just because it's plum blossoms? Geishas. Again, broken down, this information that she writes down here. So even though this is a very carefully done watercolor, look at how beautiful those textures are in here, the delicate way that she's painted these patterns on the silk. But in the end, she's just using it as a diagram. She doesn't care. Food, a lot of food. Understandable, because Japanese food is so excellent and interesting. Fermented soybeans. I like this sort of very modern, traditional Japanese guy, yet with headphones. And she says here, there's something startling about seeing sumo wrestlers in their traditional yukata and geta, wooden clogs and cotton kimono, wearing headphones, making withdrawals at ATMs, riding the subway, and once drinking strawberry milk after a match. So again, this is her travel journal. This is her travelogue. She's writing stuff that she's observing. And even in a case like this, where it's just a few words on a page, you know, it just adds a lot to the understanding of the trip, and also to the images that she's making of these sumo wrestlers. Peach blossoms. Japanese book bag, as she's writing about going back to school, how it's the beginning of the school year, it's springtime, and all the different colors that those bags come in. She loves Japanese socks. She loves socks in general, so she does a lot of collecting of socks and painting of socks. I love this part of the book too. Shoes wrapped in tape. Oh yeah, this is actually a story that she tells here about people doing basically tap dancing and rockabilly dancers. It's a view out of a plane window as she flies to Okinawa. A banana leaf. Just different kinds of food. This is a drawing of little grains of sand that are shaped like stars that she noticed. And the reason they're shaped like stars is because they're fossils. Here we are in the inside of a beautiful Japanese taxi, and she notes that, you know, they have these doilies on the back, magazines available for the passenger, and real flowers planted there in between the seats. Waterfall. Hydrangeas. This is an old man who's selling tofu. Blocks of tofu. This is a traditional textile art and all the different shades of indigo. Willow tree. Kids crossing a river. Beautiful. These are all swans made out of paper. Cranes, I mean. 1,000 paper cranes. These drawings are so simple, and yet they're so beautifully designed on the page. So in part, this is the design that a book would have. Yes, you would go to this trouble to make a book. But really, this is a very close facsimile of her actual sketchbook. I've seen her sketchbooks, and this is how simple they are, but yet how beautifully designed. The writing, the painting, the way that the pages unfold, going back and forth between a page of text with a little drawing to a panoramic view that's almost photographic. And then lotus blossoms. Bonfire festival. And then the close of the book. So this is this book. I think you can still buy it. A Year in Japan by K.T.L. Williamson. She wrote this book a dozen years ago, maybe. But I could go back to this book probably every year. I go back and look at it, and it reminds me of how to lay out pages, how to take simple things and make them dramatic and beautiful, how to juxtapose type, and also how to enjoy travel to a new country, how to enjoy a new place. If you're getting ready to go on a trip, I'd recommend check out this book and think about it when you're recording your own trip. She draws and paints beautifully, but she also designs beautifully. And whether you're able to accomplish her level of skill when it comes to rendering, I think you can still learn a lot and take a lot from the way that she designs her pages and tells her story, and all the different elements that she brings in to give a great sense of this trip that she had and how it affected her and changed her. A year in Japan. Hope that you get to have at least, I don't know, a week in Hawaii or 3 days in Parsippany, whatever it is that you're going to do. Check out this book and think about how you can enjoy your surroundings and record them in your book in new and dramatic ways.